An update on the Hyannis water system and jail time for a violent criminal. These stories and more on this episode of Barnstable Today. It's Tuesday, November 22nd, 2016. I'm Sarah Colvin. The Department of Public Works continues its mitigation efforts for the Hyannis water system following the discovery of PFAS back in May. A spending plan was recently approved that will help continue those efforts.
Last Thursday night, the Town Council voted a supplemental fiscal year 17 budget for the water system of $1.4 million, which is very significant, however required. And the bulk of that was really buying water from the town of Yarmouth because our 3 wells in the Mar well field are down, and that water is very expensive. So that was good to get that done. And as regards to the town of Yarmouth water, up until now, last year and this year, we've had temporary connections, and our goal is to have a permanent interconnection. Because the problem with the temporary is it's over the land, and you can't run it in the winter.
Right.
And we're coming up quickly, as we just discussed, 32 degrees this morning, on when we won't be able to run that system. So we're frantically trying to get all the pieces in place to get that put underground. Now, where the interconnection is private property. It's not owned by the town of Yarmouth or the town of Barnstable. So we've had to negotiate easements, permanent easements, to allow us to construct the water system, and that's taken some time, and we've finally resolved that. One is with a property owner in Barnstable along Yarmouth Road, and the other is the Mill Pond Village Condominium Association in Yarmouth, and we reached an agreement with them, and we're working through the details of that now, which will allow us in the next month to actually do the construction there. So, it's late, and we're hoping the real cold weather doesn't hit.
Construction is moving forward to enclose the 3 carbon filtration units at the Mairie well field. Director of Public Works Dan Santos says it's important to ensure the units stay warm during the cold winter months.
Over at the Mairie well field, where we have 3 carbon units, before the Mar field went down, we could turn those off in the winter, and they were just run in the warm weather. But with Mar down, we have to run the Mairie wells, 3 of them there, all year long. And to do that, we had to get funds from the town council, approval of our own water funds, as it's an enterprise account, to enclose those carbon systems with buildings so we can heat them.
Sure.
And once we put heat in the building, we can run those systems year-round.
Are those under construction now?
They are under construction. There's 3 buildings being built. The first one is up, and the sheathing is on it, and the roof is on, and that one could be heated at this time. The second one is just getting underway, and our goal is by the middle of December, those 3 buildings are at least constructed to the point where they can be heated, at least temporarily, and that's all that we're after at this point. So that's going according
Elevated
to plan.
levels of PFAS were also detected in the Mar well field, forcing a closure of those wells. Santos explains a treatment system will need to be installed there in order to reopen the wells.
We need to put a treatment system on them, and we'll be coming to the town council in the near future as we're designing that solution right now for a multi-million-dollar project to put carbon filtration and perhaps some other treatment on those wells. And our goal is to have that constructed and up and running by July 1st of 2017, which is the beginning of our real busy season for
Meanwhile,
water.
the State Department of Environmental Protection recently approved the county's plan to clean up their fire training academy, which is allegedly the source of the PFAS contamination. Santos talks about how that cleanup will affect the town.
It affects us in that if they remove the source of the contamination, eventually the water that comes to our wells will be clean. But what they haven't addressed is, and unfortunately we're doing that through lawsuit, is repaying the town for the money we've spent on all these treatment system and enclosures and bottled water and interconnections to date. it's a step in the right direction, but it's certainly not the end.
All of this work is to ensure that Hyannis water is clean and safe to drink. Recent testing continues to show that the water is indeed clean and safe. A 24-year-old Taunton man will spend the next decade and a half behind bars in connection with a violent home invasion that took place on Keating Road off C Street in March of 2014.
There was 3 individuals. They broke into a house on the corner of Keating Road and Ocean Ave. There were 3 individuals in the house, one male, 2 females. They just come back from having a night out in the town. They were just enjoying themselves, having a light conversation. These 3 individuals, they entered through a basement door, forced their ways upstairs, and attacked all 3 individuals with baseball bats. And it was this was a random event. I mean, this is something that everyone fears. There was no known connection between the defendants or the suspects or the victims, which was kind of scary. A couple of days after this incident, there was a big meeting here at the station because of concern for the neighborhood. They wanted to touch base with us to find out what was going on. Eventually, 3 individuals were arrested: Jordan Gomes, Justin Garber, and Stephen Roderick.
24-year-old Jordan Gomes was sentenced this week. He pleaded guilty in Barnstable Superior Court to several charges, including armed assault and burglary, conspiracy, and breaking and entering.
This was the last person to be sentenced. There were 3 individuals: Jordan Gomes, Justin Garber, Stephen Roderick. Stephen Roderick had committed suicide while being held at the Plymouth House of Correction, waiting for the trial to begin. Justin Garber was sentenced a couple of weeks ago. He was sentenced to 12 years and 1 day, which means he has to do a minimum of 12 years in prison at Cedar Junction. Jordan Gomes, he took a plea yesterday of 14 to 16 years in Cedar Junction, and he has to do 14 years before he's eligible for parole. And he was charged with 3 counts of armed assault and burglary while mass and BTW, breaking and entering.
Again, Gomes will spend 12 to 14 years at Cedar Junction in Walpole. For the 2nd week in a row, police were called to the Cromwell Court apartment complex.
There was an unarmed robbery at Cromwell Court, and this year, almost the exact same time, with an hour difference, in the same area, Cromwell Court, there was another unarmed robbery. 2 individuals, 2 females, got into an altercation. 1 female pushed the other. She fell backwards, and she was struck by a car. The car had nothing to do with it. The car was just simply coming into the Cromwell Courts, and the individual was pushed in front of the car, which subsequently suffered a compound fracture of her ankle. While that occurred, 2 other individuals came up and attacked the girl that did the pushing and robbed her of X amount of money. Was brought back here and made a full confession. We're just concerned about these incidents happening within 1 week and relatively serious.
Chief McDonald says patrols have been increased in that area.
We do have stepped up patrols in the area. We always stepped up patrol in that particular area. But what's a little unique to this, last week the individuals were from Connecticut and Rhode Island. This week all 3 individuals involved in this, 4 individuals involved in this. One's from Brewster and the other one's a homeless. No one there is a resident of Cromwell.
Chief McDonald says he is concerned about the outside visitors to the complex. A project to improve some signage along Route 6 is moving forward. First Barnstable State Rep Tim Whalen has an update.
What we were advised was that the job to replace the signs was put out to bid, and I believe that they're going to be starting work on that in the spring. There's an awful lot of work that's scheduled down here on the Cape. And I'm not talking about full rebuilds of roads, but I'm talking about punch list type stuff, particularly in my district that's that's part of a large group of things that they want to do in addition to the signs. As I mentioned before, they have line striping, they have some patching in certain areas. They have areas where they have to repair the shoulders, and I'm not talking just on Route 6. I'm talking about areas off of Route 6 as well, 6A and Route 28, all through the district down here that they are going to be working on. Those large signs, the large sign replacement, yes, they are being replaced. There was an issue with the reflectivity of the signs, and they needed to be updated. That work is going to be addressed again in the
Be
spring.
sure to tune in to our daily hour-long news program, Barnstable This Morning. Coming up on our final show before the Thanksgiving holiday, we'll have our Business Barnstable segment, talk with Town Manager Mark Ells and Director of Finance Mark Milne. Tune in each weekday morning at 8 for Barnstable This Morning. With this episode of Barnstable Today, I'm Sarah Colvin.